Imagine a piece of software written in 1787. It was designed for a world of quill pens, muskets, and horse-drawn carriages. Yet 230 years later, this same code is running a superpower in the age of the internet and space travel. We are talking about the United States Constitution. It is often called a living document. Why? Because it was designed to be patched, updated, and rebooted. These updates are called amendments. In this episode, we are going to do a speed run through American history. We will look at the 27 changes we have made to the original instruction manual. From the fundamental freedoms of speech and religion to the abolition of slavery and the lowering of the voting age, these amendments tell the story of a nation constantly trying to form a more perfect union. This is the story of your rights. We start with the heavy hitter, the Super Amendment. The First Amendment is the bedrock of American liberty. It doesn't just grant one right, it bundles 5 essential freedoms into a single sentence. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, and the freedom to petition the government. This amendment is a shield. It protects unpopular speech that the majority might want to silence. It protects minority religions from persecution. It ensures that citizens can gather, protest, and demand change without fear of arrest. However, it isn't absolute. It draws a line at threats and the incitement of violence. It allows you to speak your mind, but not to endanger others. It is the engine of American democracy. Moving to Amendments 2 and 3, we enter the realm of security and privacy. The Second Amendment is perhaps the most debated sentence in the English language. It protects the right to bear arms. But what does that mean? For centuries, Americans have argued over the balance between a well-regulated militia and an individual's right to own weapons. It is a tension between collective security and personal defense that continues to this day. Then there is the Third Amendment. It prohibits the government from forcing soldiers into your home during peacetime. It sounds obscure today, but it was a direct reaction to the British Quartering Acts that infuriated the colonists. It established a powerful principle. Your home is your castle, and the government cannot just barge in and take up residence. Now let's talk about the police. The Fourth Amendment is your protection against the state kicking down your door. It protects you from unreasonable searches and seizures. It requires law enforcement to have 2 things before they can search you or your property: probable cause and a warrant signed by a judge. They can't just fish for evidence, they need a reason. Crucially, this amendment created the exclusionary rule. This means that if the police break the rules and find evidence illegally, they cannot use that evidence against you in court. It forces the government to play fair, ensuring that justice isn't built on a violation of rights. If you are arrested, the Constitution kicks into high gear. Amendments 5 and 6 form the shield for the accused. The Fifth Amendment guarantees due process. It means the government has to follow the rules before it can take away your life, liberty, or property. It protects you from double jeopardy, being tried twice for the same crime. And famously, it gives you the right against self-incrimination. You have the right to remain silent. The Sixth Amendment ensures that if you go to trial, it won't be a secret tribunal. It guarantees a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury. And most importantly, it guarantees you the right to a lawyer. If you cannot afford one, the state must provide one. It tries to level the playing field between the individual and the powerful state. The Bill of Rights doesn't stop at criminal law. It also covers civil disputes and punishment. The Seventh Amendment preserves the right to a jury trial in civil cases. This means if you are sued for money, originally anything over £20, you still have the right to have your case heard by a jury of your peers, not just a government judge. Then comes the Eighth Amendment. This sets the limits on punishment. It prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. It prevents the government from torturing citizens or imposing excessive bail that would keep poor defendants in jail indefinitely. It demands that the punishment fit the crime, reflecting the evolving standards of a civilized society. The Founding Fathers worried they might have forgotten something. What if they listed all these rights, and the government assumed those were the only rights people had? Enter the Ninth Amendment. It creates a safety net. It states that citizens possess unenumerated rights beyond those explicitly listed in the Constitution. This covers things like the right to privacy or the freedom to travel, rights that are implied by a free society, even if they aren't written down. Finally, the 10th Amendment establishes the structure of power. It says that any power not specifically given to the federal government belongs to the states or to the people. This is the foundation of federalism, ensuring that Washington, D.C. doesn't run everything. After the Bill of Rights, the Constitution needed a few early bug fixes. The 11th Amendment, ratified in 1795, deals with lawsuits. It established sovereign immunity, protecting states from being sued in federal court by citizens of other states or foreign countries without their consent. The 12th Amendment, ratified in 1804, fixed a major glitch in the electoral system. Originally, the runner-up in the election became vice president. This led to awkward administrations where political rivals had to work together. The 12th Amendment required separate votes for president and vice president, creating the ticket system we use today. The Civil War broke the country, and the amendments that followed rebuilt it. This era is often called the Second Founding. The 13th Amendment, ratified in 1865, is one of the most significant sentences in history. It abolished slavery. It permanently ended the practice of chattel slavery in the United States. However, it left one controversial loophole. It allowed involuntary servitude as a punishment for crime. This exception would have long-lasting consequences for the American prison system, but the legal institution of owning humans was finally dead. If the 13th Amendment ended slavery, the 14th Amendment defined what it means to be an American. Ratified in 1868, it is a powerhouse of rights. First, it established birthright citizenship. If you are born on U.S. soil, you are a citizen, period. Second, it mandated equal protection. The laws must apply equally to everyone. The government cannot have one set of laws for white citizens and another for black citizens. Third, it extended due process to the states. Before this, the Bill of Rights only applied to the federal government. The 14th Amendment incorporated these rights, forcing state governments to respect free speech, privacy, and fair trials as well. The final amendment of the Civil War era was the 15th, ratified in 1870. It guaranteed that the right to vote could not be denied based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude. On paper, this was a triumph. It gave black men the vote. But the reality was far more bitter. For nearly a century after its passage, states used loopholes like literacy tests, poll taxes, and intimidation to block black citizens from voting. The promise of the 15th Amendment would not be fully realized until the Voting Rights Act of 1965. It was a constitutional guarantee that required a century of struggle to enforce. As America entered the 20th century, the Progressive Era brought a wave of modernization to the Constitution. The 16th Amendment, 1913, hit Americans in their wallets. It created the federal income tax. Before this, the government relied on tariffs. This amendment allowed Congress to tax income directly, funding a modern government and military without needing to divide the tax burden among the states. The 17th Amendment, 1913, changed how we pick our leaders. Originally, senators were chosen by state legislatures, not the people. This amendment established the direct election of senators, making the Senate more responsive to the voters, and less beholden to state party bosses. The Constitution is usually a one-way street. We add rights, we don't take them away. But in 1919, America tried a radical social experiment. The 18th Amendment established prohibition. It banned the manufacture and sale of alcohol. The goal was moral improvement, but the result was the rise of organized crime and speakeasies. It failed so spectacularly that 14 years later, the 21st Amendment, 1933, repealed it. To this day, the 18th is the only amendment ever to be repealed. It stands as a lesson that you cannot legislate morality if the public isn't on board. While the country was arguing over alcohol, a much larger fight for democracy was coming to a head. After 72 years of marching, lobbying, and starving in prisons, women finally won the vote with the 19th Amendment in 1920. The text is simple. The right to vote shall not be denied on account of sex. In one stroke, the electorate of the United States doubled. It was the single largest expansion of democracy in American history. Acknowledging that we the people includes women too. By the 1930s, the speed of travel had improved, but the political calendar was stuck in the horse and buggy era. The 20th Amendment, 1933, is known as the lame duck amendment. Originally, a president elected in November didn't take office until March 4th. That's a 4-month gap where the old president, the lame duck, couldn't do much, and the new one couldn't start. This amendment moved Inauguration Day to January 20th. It also set the start of Congress to January 3rd. It modernized the transition of power, reducing the time defeated politicians remained in office. After Franklin D. Roosevelt won an unprecedented 4 presidential elections, the nation decided that was enough. The 22nd Amendment, 1951, set term limits. It restricts a president to 2 elected terms. It creates a hard cap. No matter how popular a president is, 8 years is the standard. It also accounts for vice presidents who take over. A person can serve a maximum of 10 years total if they inherit the office for less than 2 years of a term. It ensures that the presidency does not become a monarchy. In the 1960s, the focus returned to voting rights. The 23rd Amendment, 1961, gave a voice to the capital. Residents of Washington, D.C. finally received electoral votes for president. They got 3 votes, treating the district as if it were a small state for the purpose of the election. Then came the 24th Amendment, 1964. It banned the poll tax. For decades, southern states charged a fee to vote, effectively disenfranchising poor black and white voters. This amendment struck down that discriminatory tactic, ensuring that your bank account doesn't determine your voice in democracy. The assassination of John F. Kennedy exposed a dangerous gap in the Constitution. What happens if a president is alive but unable to do the job? The 25th Amendment, 1967, clarified presidential succession. It confirmed that if the president dies, the vice president becomes the president, not just the acting one. More importantly, it created a mechanism for removing a president who is incapacitated but refuses to leave. It allows the vice president and the cabinet to declare the president unfit, transferring power to the VP. It is the constitutional fire extinguisher for a crisis in the Oval Office. During the Vietnam War, 18-year-olds were being drafted to fight and die for their country, yet they couldn't vote for the leaders sending them to war. The injustice was glaring. The slogan, "Old enough to fight, old enough to vote," led to the 26th Amendment in 1971. It lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. It was the quickest amendment to be ratified in history, taking only a few months. It recognized the maturity and sacrifice of young Americans. Finally, we reached the 27th Amendment, and it has the strangest origin story of all. It prohibits Congress from giving itself a pay raise that takes effect before the next election. This idea was originally proposed in 1789 by James Madison, but was forgotten. In 1982, a college student named Gregory Watson found it. He wrote a paper arguing it could still be ratified. His professor gave him a C. Watson didn't give up. He started a letter-writing campaign to state legislatures. 10 years later, in 1992, the amendment was ratified. It took 202 years, but it proved a point. The Constitution belongs to the people. From the Bill of Rights to a student's homework assignment, this document remains stable yet adaptable. It is the living code of American democracy.